Everybody, what is going on? The catch fam. I hope you guys are doing phenomenal tonight, man. I hope everyone out there is having a great week. I hope you guys are ready for week 13 of the fantasy football season because, ladies and gentlemen, it's here. It's make it or break it time. It is nearly fantasy football playoff time. And we're already halfway through the week. We've got Thursday night football kicking off tomorrow. Cowboys, Seahawks had a pretty big week in terms of Thanksgiving week, Black Friday game, Sunday after, Monday after between Justin Fields and Josh Dobbs. What a game that was! And we already have all kinds of great little injuries popping up this week as well. Jonathan Taylor, Kenneth Walker. You might see Joe Flacco, a quarterback. Got Justin Jefferson dangling himself in front of us potentially for next week. Guys, it's been a great season so far. It's been a very, very, very strange fantasy season with a lot of frustrating moments. But nonetheless, we still have just a couple weeks left here to be excited about and to really, really set up these lineups to potentially send us into the fantasy playoffs. So let me know how you guys are doing. Whatever fantasy questions you guys need, start sits. Some of you guys still trading, dynasty, maybe you're trading, so trades are fine. Roster reviews, how did the waiver wire go? What defenses do you guys need to scoop up for this week? Whatever you guys need, any fantasy football questions, I am here to help you guys. So, week 13, we've got some juicy matchups ahead of us. I mean, seriously, we've got some really great matchups. I mean, last week we had a lot of good players exploit some really good matchups, but there's some good stuff this week. So Tony Pollard gets the Seattle Seahawks tomorrow. Guys, if you own Pollard, you've got to start him. The Hawks, after just being abysmal on Thanksgiving against Christian McCaffrey, have dropped to the 5th worst team against the running back position so far on the season from a fantasy perspective. Tony Pollard, another strong start. I've encouraged you guys to start him the last 2 weeks due to matchup. Start him again. The weather's supposed to be bad in this game. I like Pollard tomorrow a lot. Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren will both face the Arizona Cardinals run defense, which is giving the most fantasy points to the running back position so far on the season. Seriously, just start both Najee and Jaylen Warren this week. Derrick Henry, coming off of a 2-touchdown performance game against the Carolina Panthers, gets another good run matchup this week against the Indianapolis Colts, who are giving up the 8th most fantasy points to the position. Yeah, keep Derrick Henry in your lineups. And Raheem Mostert's playing the Commanders, the next worst team after the Colts, coming in as the 25th worst team against the run. Keep Raheem Mostert in your lineups. Don't think twice about it. Devin Singletary has been a fun fantasy waiver wire pickup this year, and he gets a good matchup this week against the Denver Broncos. I think we go ahead and start him as well for sure. Rachaad White, loved him last week. Couldn't find the end zone, but still had 100 yards on the ground, a couple catches. He gets the Carolina Panthers at this point in the season. Whatever running back faces the Panthers, start him. Start Rachaad White, this week, no matter what. Pacheco, good matchup last week against the Raiders. Gets another good matchup this week against the Packers. He's looked a little bit better against the run the past month or so, but they're still bottom 12. Pacheco stays in your lineups this week. All right, Demario Douglas, if he's good to go, I liked him a lot last week, and it's another good matchup for him this week against the Chargers, giving up the 3rd most fantasy points to wide receivers. If you own Demario Douglas, I think he's a really good flex, stay floor type of play for the week. Chris Olave, if he does suit up, good matchup against the Lions, giving up the 6th most fantasy points to the wide receiver position on the season so far. I like Olave, but like every Saints wide receiver is hurt except A.T. Perry. So, Hollywood Brown, 12 targets last week. Greg Dortch, 9 targets last week. They get the Steelers this week. Bottom 9 against wide receivers this year. I like both those guys this week. Greg Dortch, a nice little waiver wire pickup if you need someone as a flyer. Deontay Johnson, 8 targets last week. Pickens, 5 targets. Same game, the Cardinals, giving up the 8th most fantasy points to wide receivers. I don't know how I feel about the Steelers wide receivers, but things looked a little bit better last week with the new offensive coordinator. So I guess you can start those guys. They have a good matchup, but I don't feel as good about them. On the other hand, Michael Pittman gets the Titans, giving up the 10th most fantasy points to wide receivers. Michael Pittman went off last week. We liked him a lot going up against that Bucs secondary. We also like Josh Downs, who had 13 targets, similar to Michael Pittman, also 13 targets. But Pittman, 10 catches, Downs just 5. But I like both of them against the Titans once again this week. Okay, guys, the Dolphins are playing the Commanders, if you haven't heard. And this game is going to be an absolute bloodbath in terms. It's going to be similar to what we saw. I mean, I don't know if like the weather's supposed to be bad or anything, but in terms of what we saw, the Cowboys just due to Washington last week on Thanksgiving Day, it's probably going to be similar for Tyreek Hill and company. So obviously, if you own Tyreek Hill, it doesn't matter if he's playing like 2000 Ravens or the 1985 Bears. You're still starting Tyreek Hill, but man, Jalen Waddle. Going into last week, kind of iffy. The Jets were still ranking pretty high against wide receivers. Didn't matter. I mean, this is really like the first game where it feels like we can be a little bit more comfortable with Jalen Waddle again. 8 targets, 8 receptions, 114 receiving yards. So if you own Jalen Waddle, I think he is a fantastic wide receiver too. This week, I think he's a great flex option. Okay. Jalen Waddle, purely due to matchup, and I mean, okay, maybe not purely. Like I said, last week was really encouraging, but straight up, the matchup, fantastic. Exploit it. Start Jalen Waddle this week. Okay. Adam Thielen has a really juicy matchup against the Bucs. Okay, Adam Thielen has been really, really disappointing the last couple of weeks. Bryce Young has looked like just a complete mess. It was a pretty good matchup last week for Adam Thielen, not going to lie, but this is a better matchup against the Bucs. I like the matchup, but I don't feel confident about Adam Thielen. So I don't know. It's a good matchup. It's juicy. We're going over juicy matchups to start the show today. I don't know. The Bucs secondary has been just really, really bad. So maybe consider Thielen. All right, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel. If you own them, you're starting them this week. The Eagles secondary sucks. It just does. This is going to be a fun game. There's going to be points in this game, similar to the Bills-Eagles game last weekend. Expect big things out of this game. Ayuk, probably a guy you're starting anyways, but Deebo, who can sometimes be a little bit questionable in lineups. Start both of them. Don't care. Both scored last week. They could both score again this week against Philly. Okay. Jamar Chase, interesting situation. 6 targets, 4 receptions, 81 receiving yards last week. Gets the Jags. They're giving up a lot of fantasy points to wide receivers, the 5th most in the league right now. If you own Chase, I think you can start him, but he's still kind of like moved down in tier to like a flex guy because of the quarterback situation. But full PPR still got you double digits last week, just barely. I think he can do that again this week. I do. On the other hand, Calvin Ridley and Christian Kirk will face the Bengals. This Bengals defense has not been so good the last couple of games. Giving up the 12th most fantasy points to wide receivers. I like both those guys this week. You're probably starting them anyways, but fire them up. All right. Don't sit Sam Laporta. Good matchup against the Saints. We'll go into a couple streamers here. Tyler Conklin, good matchup against the Falcons. He had 5 targets last week. I think if you were like absolutely freaking desperate in a super flex double quarterback league, you could start Kenny Pickett this week, but don't expect much. It's just the matchup against the Cardinals is so good. Like Matthew Stafford's had a really low ceiling all year long. He's put up like 30 fantasy points against the Cardinals. I think that's exactly what's going to happen with Pickett because also this Cardinals defense is so soft against the run. Steelers like to run it, but there's something there. 3rd most fantasy points to quarterbacks this year. I like this matchup, but I don't know. Pickett might be a guy who's out there is all I'm saying. Okay. Russell Wilson, I also like as a streaming option against the Texans. Good matchup for him. They're going to throw the football. The Texans are going to throw the football. I think you can throw Russie out there if you need to. Schultz, same matchup against the Broncos. Really good matchup. The Broncos have allowed the most fantasy points to tight ends on the season. If you own Dalton Schultz, I think you can roll with him this week. I know last week was a complete dud. I think it'll be okay. David Njoku, a great matchup. The Rams giving up the third most fantasy points to tight ends on the season. Njoku, kind of a guy who gets picked up, dropped, but after that big performance the other week, probably has stayed on your roster. You can roll with him this week. He had 9 targets last week. I like him again against the Rams. Brock Purdy gets the Eagles, giving up the second most fantasy points to quarterbacks on the season. Put my boy Brock Purdy in your lineup. I think he can help you quite a bit this week. Okay. Evan Engram will face the Bengals, are giving up the second most fantasy points to tight ends. Just gave up a huge day to Pat Freiermuth. It's going to be a good week for Engram, who always has that floor, but the ceiling hasn't really been there this year. Maybe it happens this week against the Bengals. Okay. There's your juicy matchups. Those are the guys you definitely want to consider this week. And let's get right into some fantasy Q&A. Guys, hit the like button and let's talk some fantasy football, ladies and gentlemen. All right, good to see everybody. What is going on, guys? Appreciate you guys being here tonight. Mekhi to go. Bijan, Kamara, Pollard, Kyron, full PPR, sit 1. Jeez, why? How? Love all these guys this week. Okay, I really, really do. Really tough to sit a guy like Kamara. Okay, but I think he has the least intriguing offense. But like Derek Carr is going to start, and half this wide receiver core is injured. It's not a great matchup against Detroit, but it doesn't really matter for a guy like Kamara, who has had 5 or more targets every game since week 6, 5 or more targets every game since week 4, except for week 5. Love Pollard this week. Great matchup. I'm not sitting Bijan. I'm not sitting Kyron, but I mean, those guys technically, Bijan, faces the Jets. I don't care about that matchup. Kyron, on the other hand, tougher matchup against Cleveland, but man, jeez Louise. Maybe you look at this and you sit the guy on the short week, sit Pollard. Maybe gosh almighty. I just don't think you can set Pollard. Okay. It's such a good matchup. But man, oh man. And like the Browns defense hasn't been playing like phenomenal. I mean, they're still playing good, but they've been slipping just a little bit compared to how stout they were early in the season. But I think you either look at this and you say, I'm not interested in the Saints offense, maybe the Falcons offense, or you look at it and just say, I sit the guy in the short week, or you just look at it and you say, I sit the guy who has the worst matchup in Kyron Williams. Like, you have to choose one of those things because all these guys are essentially must starts this week in my mind. So, I mean, Bijan, 2 touchdowns last week. Don't care who he's playing. Kyron, 2 touchdowns last week. Don't care who he's playing. Kamara, like I said, Carr starting, and every wide receiver on this team has died. He's going to get a ton of dump offs. And then Pollard just has a great matchup. The Seahawks run defense looks awful. So very, very, very tough decision there. Would you trade Breece Hall for Jacobs? Guy with Jacobs needs to win out. I mean, it's a pretty lateral trade at this point in the season. Like, there's issues for both of these players on their respective offenses. So I would probably rather have Josh Jacobs, I guess, because I just am really worried about this Jets offense. I still like Breece Hall. I think like the floor is safe, but I think Jacobs will have more games where he kind of booms, so to speak. So I would do it, I guess. I don't have a problem with it. But like I said, I don't know if it's like a crazy difference between rostering these two guys. Smoke at the Cat, what's up, dude? Pick 2, Russell, Carr, Love, or Baker. I'm probably going to stick with Jordan Love and Russell Wilson. I think there's some intrigue for Carr and Baker, but I think the most competitive game scripts will come out of Russell Wilson and Jordan Love. So I talked about the Broncos a lot last week and a bit the week before even. And like this team is like, I think they have a really good shot to make the playoffs. And right now that's looking even more apparent. I just think Russell Wilson will offer you kind of that safe floor. the ceiling's not crazy high, but there's going to be some good games. I think this coming week against the Texans will be, give us a better idea of what we kind of can expect out of what this Broncos team is going to be in more competitive matchups. So I like Russ. Carr is throwing the ball fine, and they're just not scoring touchdowns through the air at all. He's had several weeks this year where he throws for like over 300 yards and like no touchdowns, and that's what he did last week. So, and then Baker. I mean, Baker is my guy, that, but the ceiling's just not high there. So I'll go Russ and Jordan Love, and and the backpedal back to what I was saying about Russell Wilson. Like, he gives you that floor. I think Jordan Love gives you a little bit more of a ceiling. So, told you guys. I mean, like, we talked about this quite a bit. Jordan Love looked really good beginning of the year, then had that slump, and just so many people giving up on Jordan Love. I kept trying to remind you guys, like, just remember what he did those first 3 weeks of the game. Like, I don't think that's completely, or first 3 games of the year. Like, I don't think that's completely over with, and he's looked really good. So I will keep those two. Chase, what's good, my guy? Good to see you, bro. Would you drop Heineke for Kendre Miller in a Superflex dynasty? Probably so. Yeah. I mean, there's always a place on your bench for like these kind of fringe bench might start quarterbacks. But I mean, I don't know. Like, Heineke kind of got a shot. Raiders come back in. I think the Falcons are probably going to look elsewhere at quarterback going into next year. I mean, people hate on this Falcons team, and I do myself, man. And like, I'm glad they're using Bijan now, but you have to kind of look at this team, and like, if they add like a stable enough quarterback, I don't know, this team could actually be really interesting going into next year. They have a lot of pieces around what Arthur Smith and company have put together. It's just like, can we like get a fun offensive coordinator in here who can call the plays over Arthur Smith and get like, everyone's like, a hot rumor is like Justin Fields being traded to the Falcons. But yeah, I don't know. Like I said, there's always a place for these. You just never know what's going to happen at quarterback. Look at how many quarterbacks have got hurt this year. Always a place for a guy like Heineke, but I'd probably roster Kendre Miller. Full PPR, pick one. Would you start Charbs, Hollywood, London, or Higgins? I would start Hollywood Brown this week. Like his matchup, I think that the Cardinals will be in a position that they need to throw this week. I don't really trust Higgins. It's a good matchup, but let's see how things look. The different quarterback. Let's see if Higgins even plays. I think Drake London's okay, but I would start Hollywood. Warrior Loft, good to see you. What's up, dude? Wilson, Standard League. Kyron Williams, Henry Etienne, who's the odd man out. I mean, roll a 3-sided die. Like, here's the thing. Like, Kyron, tough matchup. Etienne, good matchup. Henry, great matchup. So, are you really going to bench Kyron after what he did last week? Probably not. Etienne and Henry have been really solid. But I could see why, like, maybe you potentially don't feel great about Etienne, who's had a lower ceiling lately. But I feel like part of this game plan, they're going to run the football. I don't think they're going to be facing like a ton of resistance offensively from the Bengals. So, I mean, say what you want about Etienne. He's still the RB3 on the season. A couple of tough matchups. Week 14, Cleveland. Week 15, Baltimore. Week 16, Tampa Bay. Before he gets Carolina in the fantasy championship. Maybe Travis Etienne. If you were looking at, current trend in terms of points, it's Etienne. If we're looking at matchup, it's Kyron. I would not bench Henry, though. Caleb, what's up, my dude? Breece Hall, Godwin, Charbs, Cooper, Shaheed, Mac Jones. Start one. I'm really worried about Amari Cooper this week, so probably not him. It's probably Godwin or Breece Hall. Godwin, tough matchup against the Panthers. They really haven't given up a lot of points to wide receivers. Breece Hall, a little dinged up. Bad matchup against the Falcons. But I still think your best bet is one of those guys. I don't want to start Charbonnet at all this week against Dallas. I just don't think it's going to be any better than last week unless they get like garbage time points. Usually I would say just go to the quarterback here, but with Mac Jones in the mix as the only quarterback, I'm not going there. Shaheed, interesting, banged up last week. Maybe a guy, maybe, but I'd probably go Brees Hall or Godwin. Coin flip, what's going on, man? Full PPR, start one wide receiver, one flex. We got Nico, Deontay, Swift, and Moss. I probably start Nico Collins and DeAndre Swift because they've just been the most consistent on this season. I like both the game scripts they're in. If you don't like the matchup for Swift against the Niners, then I probably just throw Zach Moss out there because early in the season he was essentially like matchup proof. So I think that's fine too. Deontay is a good matchup if you like him, but I don't trust these Steelers wide receivers. I'm starting to regret trading away Evans and getting Monty and Cooper. Yeah, tough. I don't know exactly what Evans has left in him in terms of how long he wants to play, but of course, he can be as productive as he wants to, as long as he wants to, it looks like. Probably go to a contending team next year. So, like, Evans is still a valuable asset, but at the time when he did this trade, Cooper, Deshaun Watson was healthy and Cooper looked like he was going to be consistent this year. And then you had the added advantage of gaining David Montgomery. So tough, but it might not be the end of the world. Still like Monty a lot. Rate my starting lineup, 12-man PPR, double flex, one keeper after the 8th round. So Hurts, Brees, Kamara, CD, Amon-Ra, Laporta, Olave, Hollywood. On the bench, we got Lennon, Sharps, Hunt, Kyler, Spears, Higgins. Great lineup. Great lineup for a 12-man. I mean, they had like Brees, a little bit of lower ceiling lately. Kamara, great this week. Hurts, say no more. CD, Amon-Ra, say no more. Laporta, great matchup. Olave and Hollywood, both have great matchups this week. So I would feel really good about this lineup, to say the least. Yeah, I feel great. Had the Browns and Lions. Available defenses are Tampa, Green Bay, Rams. Any thoughts on who to drop or pick up? Well, here's the thing with the Browns defense. Like I've said this like weeks now. The Browns defense been really good in real life, and they've had their moments this year in fantasy, but they haven't been great. Like they're still a defense 4 in fantasy, but like 4 points, 7 points, 15 points, 24 points, 6 points. There's your last 5 weeks. So like you have those 2 double-digit point games, but outside of that, they've only hit double digits twice. Other than those 2 games. So 4 times on the year they've hit double digits. Every other game, 9 or less points. So they get the Rams this week on the road. Okay. They haven't played great on the road this year. Defensively, that is. But I don't know. I just don't love them. The Lions defense I don't trust because they're playing good against the run, but that is it, man. That is it. They've had success fantasy-wise this year as well, but it's been just as inconsistent. So I don't really trust them. I would look to some of these streaming options. You've got some good streaming options available. Really like the Buccaneers this week because they play Bryce Young. Okay. So like even if Bryce Young doesn't have one of these games where he's turning the football over a ton, he doesn't provide like any offensive firepower whatsoever, nor does this offense as a whole. So I like Tampa Bay this week. I think they're a really good stream. I know a lot of people do like Green Bay this week as well. I don't particularly trust them against Kansas City, though, but I know that's been in the mix for some people. And the Rams are another team that a lot of people are talking about, and I think they're okay. And I think that the upside is certainly there. Going up against Cleveland, he's probably going to start Joe Flacco. Like that is literally right now we are trending towards seeing Joe Flacco play in this game. They are the second worst defensive team from a fantasy perspective. They've hit double digits twice for what it's worth, but they're like second to last in the league in takeaways and giving up like the most total yards in the league, like something really bad. So I don't know that I trust them, but they're at home, and I can certainly see why the upside is there. They've been a good defense. Like they've ranked like top 15 or 12 against every position throughout the season, but They haven't been a great fantasy defense. Big difference, right? I do think that there's a lot of upside there, though. So I probably go Tampa, Rams, Browns, Lions, Green Bay would be my order. Albert, what's up, my guy? Tommy, what's going on, man? Good to see you guys. Hope you guys are doing fantastic. Just added the Browns defense and Kansas City defense for playoffs. Good pickups. Yeah, I really like Kansas City. I don't know that they're going to have a huge week this week. They're like an okay start. They're on the road against Green Bay, so I don't love them, but they're so worth holding on to because their schedule after this week is so good. So, I mean, yeah, if you have these two defenses, you can definitely get by for sure. If Walker and Aaron Jones are out, who'd you start? Charbs, Dillon, Godwin, Douglas, Watson. Yeah, I'm not starting these running backs. So I'm assuming this is your flex. I would start Pop Douglas and or Christian Watson over everyone else here. I would. Watson might be disappointing. This Chiefs defense, nothing to sneeze at, but you got the upside, right? Pop, on the other hand, a good matchup, best matchup out of any of these players. So, yeah, he's been okay in terms of a floor and full PPR. So, those would be the guys I would roll with if possible. Javonte, Aaron Jones, or Sutton. You already know we're starting Cortland Sutton. I don't care what the matchup is. That's my boy. Cortland Sutton, full PPR, has been great all season long. It shouldn't be a question. I mean, I get why it's a question here in context, but yeah, I mean, Sutton is a guy you can start week in and week out. The Texans have been good against wide receivers, but I'm fine with starting Sutton. All right, guys, I'm way behind the chat. I'm going to try and get a little caught up here. Brees, Charbs, or Najee? Najee. Come on, Smokey. Trust your team. Great matchup. Goddard or Lance? Logan Thomas. Goddard. Give me Goddard. Why not? Who's my 3 standard league? Jaden Reed, Jamar Chase, Michael Pittman, Cup. I would bench Cup. I know it. I know it hurts. It does. I would bench Cooper Cup. I would bench Cooper Cup. Yeah, that's my answer. Okay. He's probably going to play. He was kind of trending towards being like possibly out. But it looks like he's going to play. He's trending that way at least. Practice today. He hasn't topped more than 6.9 fantasy points since week 6. Coming off another injury. He's playing Cleveland. I get it. It's Cooper Kupp. He can put up 20 points. But I just think you have safer options in the other 3 guys here. Chase doesn't feel great, but it's a good matchup. He did enough last week. I think he'll do enough again. You got to start Pittman, and Jaden Reed is a great wide receiver 2 guy, so keep him in your lineup. Rodgers going to play regardless of team record. Yeah, I don't get it. And I think the best thing that the Jets could do is just shut down Aaron Rodgers for the year. I mean, this year's watch. I mean, I think there's still technically a chance that they can make the playoffs. If that's alive, then maybe. But man, this year, what everyone envisioned for the Jets this year is gone, far gone. Just try and start over next year. But we'll see what happens. Start 2, London Swift, A-Chain, Watson, Chupa, Pacheco, Hall. Yeah. I start Pacheco. I love Pacheco again this week. I think it's another great matchup, another type of game plan that could utilize a lot of Isaiah Pacheco. It worked last week. Roll with it again, Andy Reid, please. The second one is tough. Swift, A-Chain, Watson are all options, and I don't want to sneeze at Drake London or Breece Hall or even Chuba coming off a big game, but I would probably roll with Devon A-Chain if he plays because Washington's bad. And this is one of those game scripts where they could end up utilizing A-Chain and or Jeff Wilson. So I'd probably roll with those 2 guys. What's up, Spence? How are you, bro? Super excited to finally see Waddle going. Also, Tank Dell should be good. Yeah. So, I mean, not an outstanding matchup on paper for Tank Dell, but yeah, I mean, Tank Dell is a must start week to week. It doesn't really matter. But the Broncos are still they're the 7th best team against wide receivers on the season. So they've been top 10 for the past couple weeks against wide receivers after even when they were playing really bad defensively, they were still playing okay against wide receivers all season long. So I mean, Pat Surtain we'll probably see more Nico Collins this game, but it's hard to say. And even then, the rest of the Broncos secondary has been playing good. And this Broncos defense as a whole, while they still rank on the season really low against quarterbacks, tight ends, and running backs, they have not been awful whatsoever the past month. So sometimes we want to look at rankings from like the past couple of weeks. Sometimes even like the last 2 weeks. Like you look at the Bears on Monday Night Football, like this Bears run defense been playing really, really well the last like 2 or 3 weeks. Well, they weren't playing great at the beginning of the season. So, but with all that said, I don't really care. You can start Tank Dell no matter what. And I guess you're talking about in regards to the injury. I think he's going to be good to go. I think that's the way he's trending. But Noah Brown still fine to hold whether Tank Dell plays or not. All right, adventures from the queue. Needed running back in the flex. ETN, Pollard, Rice. I would start ETN and Pollard, but I like Rashid Rice still. ETN and Pollard, roll with them. Keep the Browns or pick up Steelers, Falcons. I like the Falcons a lot this week. They're a great streaming option. They play Tim Boyle and the Jets. I do like the Steelers, but I think Kyler will do fine. He might probably turn the ball over like once. I mean, that's pretty Kyler Murray-esque, but I don't know. The Steelers secondary, I think, is going to have a tough time this weekend. Do like the Steelers, though. I mean, if you want a 1 week play, it's the Falcons. If you want a long-term play, it's the Browns or the Steelers. So that's tough. Let's see. Pittsburgh will face New England, Indy, Cincy, Seattle. That's a pretty beautiful schedule. So you can bear that in mind. The Brownies, on the other hand, will face Jacksonville, Chicago, Houston, the Jets. Jacksonville tough, Houston tough, Chicago probably fine, the Jets good. That's in the fantasy championship, so tough choices there. Like I said, win now, go with the Falcons. Cleveland kind of up and down, but some really juicy matchups. The Steelers pretty good the rest of the season. Just traded Garrett Wilson and Charbs, got Zach Moss and Addison. Need wins now. Was this an all right move? Yes. Addison, Wilson, pretty lateral. Tough quarterback play for both guys. Both get the volume. Addison, I expect to actually be a little bit better when JJ's back on the field. Win now, I'd rather have Zach Moss than Charbonnet. Jets defense or the Falcons? I'd start the Falcons. Lamar and Eckler or Hurts and Gibbs? Hurts and Gibbs. Kyron, Pollard, Mostert, Gibbs, sit one. I'll sit Gibbs, but I still love Gibbs. Rice or Watson in the flex. Rice for a floor, Christian Watson for upside. Ghost Hunter, what's good, my guy? Hello. GT Sport, what's up? Kyler or Jordan Love? Let's go to matchups. That's pretty close. I mean, I think it's really close. The Chiefs are 8th against quarterbacks on the season, and the Steelers are 4th. It's close, man. I'll say Jordan Love, but it's close. I feel like the upside is with Kyler Murray, but it's close. So many good defensive options this week between Falcons, Chargers, Bucks, Rams. Who you going? I like the Falcons personally. They have disappointed us at times. I just really don't trust. I think this Jets team is just like they're throwing in the towel. That's my opinion. If anything happens similar to what we saw this past week, but then I like the Bucks. Good floor play. Then the Rams and the Chargers. I don't trust the Chargers. I just don't. I don't. I get that they're playing the Patriots. I still don't trust them, which maybe is a mistake. They have a lot of good defensive players. I just think the scheme and the play calling is awful defensively. But, they did it the other week against Tyson Bagent and the Bears, so I can see why. But, yeah, I hope that answer was helpful. It's all over the place. Chase, what's up, man? San Fran, Falcons, or Colts? Falcons for upside, Colts for a floor. The Colts, another defense that hasn't really come up tonight. I like the Colts a lot for the rest of the season. They're like the defense 7. They're still floating around. Get the Titans. They have a really juicy schedule the rest of the year. Bench 1, London, Moss, Ford. I'll bench Jerome, Ford, because this Browns offense has looked very bad. And they might have Flacco out there. It might be ugly. I'll bench Ford. Trade Kirk for Jalen Warren. Wide receiver Hill, CD, Waddle, McLaurin, Lennon, Downs. Running backs are Jacobs, Henry, Gus, A.J. Madison. Did I win? Needed an injury backup for A.J. That's fine. I mean, I love Christian Kirk, so I'm pretty biased. But the trade's fine. Warren might have a huge week against the Cardinals. But, I mean, you have Hill, CD, Waddle, and 3 guys you can throw in if you need to. So it's fine. What's up, J-Dubs? Good to see you, Broski. Victor, what's up, man? Which defense this week? Bucks, Falcons, Jags. I'll go Falcons, but the Bucks are really good too. Jags are fine. Bucks are like the safer play. Falcons risky, but give you a little bit of upside. Do you like Cooks tomorrow or Downs? I mean, I like Downs due to matchup more. This feels like one of those games where Brandon Cooks goes a little quiet. Like the Seahawks pass defense has been good. Okay, they barely gave up a touchdown to Brandon Ayuk last week. Okay, almost gave up 2, but a good swat on the first one that didn't turn into a touchdown. Debo scored on the ground, and then CMC scored twice on the ground. Like this Seahawks defense not playing good, and their run defense is looking awful. I mean, they've dropped back in rankings drastically over the past couple of weeks defensively against the run, but their pass defense is still okay. They actually come in, let's see, they've dropped back to 18th. So that's actually better in terms of starting Brandon Cooks than I thought it was, but they're still okay against the pass, point I'm making. I'll say Josh Downs for a 4, Brandon Cooks for upside, but I just feel like, I feel like the weather's supposed to be bad tomorrow. This run defense has been bad for the Seahawks, like we just talked about. I just feel like we could see a lot of Tony Pollard, even a little bit of Rico. But you never know. This Cowboys offense is just kind of playing lights out every week. So Cooks is fine for upside play, but on the road, I don't know. I might go Downs for the 4 because he's got another great matchup this week. What's going on, Mateo? Bring the questions on. Oh, you did trade away Cooper after the Watson injury in Dynasty. Well, I mean, it's just hard to judge right now. Like, we didn't really expect every quarterback on the Browns to get hurt. You still got Monty, right? But Evans has looked good. It's tough. Tough calls, man. Pick 2, DK, Downs, Rice, and Brees. Man, DK's just been such a... I'm not starting DK this year. I'll start Rashee Rice and Josh Downs. If you like Brees Hall over one of those guys, that's okay. Start 3. Is this against me? We're playing this week, J-Dubs. I'm not allowed to answer this. Christian Watson, Tank Dell, Puka, Mostart, London. Assuming Olave plays. I would start Tank Dell. I would start Mostart. And I would probably throw Christian Watson in the mix just for the upside. Puka has been London is okay, but it's Falcons. So yeah, I would throw Christian Watson in there. Why not? But yeah, I'm definitely starting Mostart and Tank Dell there. Herbert or Howell? I probably would stick with Herbert, but I do really like Sam Howell this week. But I'd probably stick with Herbie. Give the man some offensive help, please, other than Keenan Allen. And find a way to keep Mike Williams healthy. Noah Brown, if he plays, or Gibson, I go Noah Brown. But Gibson's fine-ish, I guess. Kyler or Russ? Gotta drop someone to pick one up. Kyler. I mean, I like Russ, but for the rest of the season, give me Kyler. I do like Russ. I'm in on Russ. I don't know why. That's him. Allen CMC. Bijan. Is it Brian? It's Brian Robinson, sorry. Waddle, Dell, Watson, Laporta, A-Chain, Steelers, London, Javonte, Najee, Charles, Ravens, Dotson, Reed. Who to start and drop? So I guess this week you'd start. You have to. Okay, you got to pick up. Okay, I'm sorry. I got you. So this week, start CMC. Doesn't matter. Start him. Tough matchup. Start Brian Robinson. Start Waddle. Start Dell. Start Laporta. Probably flex Christian Watson and or A-Chain. Start the Steelers defense. And I'd leave it at that. Over Christian Watson, start Najee Harris. The matchup's too good. And if anything happens to Tank Dell, no, he's your wide receiver too. Man, I might just start Jaden Reed and Najee Harris in the flex and bench Christian Watson and Devon A-Chain. Who would I drop? I mean, you got to look at guys like Dotson, Sharps, and Javonte, and maybe even Drake London, and just say, am I ever going to start these players? Who are you the least likely to start for the rest of the season? And if you really don't want to make that call, you don't need two defenses. I get it. You have two good defenses here. Really, the only advantage here is just like keeping a good defense from another team. You have two really good defenses, though. But are you going to start the Ravens? They get the Rams, the Jags, the Niners, the Dolphins. How much confidence are you actually going to have in starting the Ravens in those matchups is the question you really have to ask yourself. Because if you're not confident in starting them and they're on bye this week, and you have the Steelers who get Arizona on the road, Bailey Zappi / Mac Jones, and whoever else the Patriots come up with on the road, then they get the Colts at I'm sorry. Those games are at home, but the other teams are on the road. Then they are physically on the road against the Colts and Gardner Minshew. Then they're at home against Cincy. Then they're on the road against Seattle. Like, these are all good matchups. So I would probably just keep the Steelers and drop the Ravens. You need a flex with Keaton Mitchell, James Cook, Dotson, or take a flyer on Dortch. I take a flyer on Dortch. Dotson's okay. Take a flyer on Dortch, though. Give me Greg Dortch. Sharp, Dotson, London, flex one. Probably Dotson after just saying no to Dotson, but probably Dotson. You're good, Mateo. That's what we're here for, man. Picked up A-Rod, threw him on IR in my home league. Try to drop him so I don't have to keep hearing the updates. Yeah, I mean, it'd be realistic. Like, even if Aaron Rodgers comes back and it's week 16, are you going to have confidence to start him? That offensive line is made out of, like, paper mache. He might re-tear his Achilles on the first snap. You know, I mean, I listen, I wanted to watch Aaron Rodgers play with his team this year. I just don't think it's realistic. What's up, Olrak? Good to see you, bro. All right, so this was a 3 wide receiver league. So start CMC, Brian Robinson, Waddle, Dell, Watson, A-Chain. Or you can go Jaden Reed over Watson if you feel better about that. And I would flex Najee. And you can still consider A-Chain in the flex. Just depends on how many flexes you have. Zach, what's up, bro? Traded Mixon and Singletary for ETN. Have A-Chain, Cook, Sharp. I like it. 7-5. I like Singletary, and he's got another good matchup this week, but I'd rather have ETN. Don't feel good about Mixon right now. Yeah. You just rolling with ETN and A-Chain for the rest of the season. But Cook has been actually pretty dang good these past couple weeks, so yeah. I'm good with it, bro. A-Chain if healthy or Moss. Moss for a 4. I think Moss will have a good week, but A-Chain is a great upside play. But we know the risk with Devon A-Chain. That's my guy. But, like, he might get hurt. Made it playoffs, but need to win for a higher position. Let's go. Playoff start week 14. Ooh, forgot that some of you guys start before others. What's up, Birdman? Good to see you. QJ was dropped. Is he worth a grab? No. Maybe in Dynasty. I have him in Dynasty League. I haven't dropped him. I mean, there's time, but redraft, no. What 3 running backs do I play in PPR? Gibbs, Monty, Swift, Rashad, Warren. Yeah, you got some juicy options here. What's up, DC? I would start Monty. Don't sit Monty. Start Rashad White. The matchup is too good. Start Jalen Warren. The matchup is too good. You have 2 really good running backs on your bench. Any of these guys can outscore each other. I'd start Monty, Rashad, and Warren. Thoughts? Benching Cup and Puka this week for Ridley and Moss. I would do it. I think it's a good move. I don't feel good about these Rams pass catchers right now. Like the 2 hottest names early in the season. I don't know, man. I don't like it this week. T-Law, Love, or Murray, I'd start Trevor Lawrence. Any kickers you recommend for the week? Definitely, of course, depends on who's available out there. Always so difficult to say. But I do like Mac A. Just a solid option. Didn't give us as high of a ceiling as we would have liked to see last week. But on the road this year, he's hit double digits every game except for 1. Actually, except for 2. Forgot that New England game. But I like him against Tennessee. And then in that same matchup, I like Nick Folk to potentially hit double digits against the Colts. So Blake Groupie, the Saints, gets Detroit this week. He was limited in practice, but I think he's a good start as well if he's out there. So take a look, see if those guys are out there. I doubt that Brandon Aubrey is available, but of course he's a good option. He got kind of dropped because he hasn't really been hitting that high ceiling. He's had 7 or 8 points for 5 weeks straight. So some people gave up on him, but check if those guys are out there. Might be some good options. And probably not available, but more widely available than you might think is Brandon McManus of the Jaguars. According to Sleeper, he's 52% rostered. He is the kicker number 2 on the season, has hit double digits and 16 or more fantasy points twice since week 6, double digits 4 times since week 6. That includes their bye week. So I like him a lot as well, but I don't know necessarily how much resistance we're going to see out of Cincinnati defensively. So that could be bad for the kicker position. Freiermuth or Taysom? I go Freiermuth, but I think Taysom Hill is exciting this week. Goff or Kyler? Goff for a floor, Kyler for upside. Should I try to trade low for Chase from someone on the league that's already out of playoff contention? No. I mean, if it's Dynasty, yes. If it's redraft, you can, but only if you're hurting that wide receiver. I mean, it's okay, but that's about it for me. Rice or Puka? Probably Rice. I'll say Rice. But it's not like Rice has a high ceiling necessarily. Moss or Stevenson? That's a good question. The Chargers are the weirdest run defense. They play really well one week, then not so well the next week. And they look really stout at times. They're 20th on the season. 21 touches last week for Ramondre. 5 catches, touchdown. I probably just stick with him, but I think Zach Moss a good start too. Made for TV, good to see you. How are you doing, my guy? Full PPR, Downs or Cooks? Downs for a floor, Cooks for upside. Why would the Yahoo app suggest I bench Mostert and start Gibbs? Don't listen to the Yahoo app. Don't pay attention to projections on any app. Don't listen to apps, please. Cooks or Noah Brown? I've Dell. I know last time we went Cooks for you, it really worked out. I guess Cooks. I just think the Noah Brown situation is more of like a, if you don't have a better option, I go Cooks between these two. And Joku or McBride, love them both, man. I'd probably go McBride because he's tied to a better quarterback, but both are fine. It looks like it doesn't really matter who's that quarterback for the Browns, and Joku's going to get like 9+ targets, but I go McBride. I'm worried about this Browns offense this week. Should I have a buy? Do you like picking up the Jets defense off waivers for Week 16 versus Washington and Week 17 against Cleveland? You could, but I don't think they're going to have a high ceiling. I just think this Jets team is going to look really different these last couple of games. That's my prediction. They did not look very inspired against the Dolphins. I just don't. I don't know, man. I don't feel good about them. I think the floor might be there. They might make some plays like they did against the Dolphins, right? But I don't feel good about them. What about Baker or Love over Kyler? You could go Jordan Love if you want. I think he's a safe play this week. Yeah, I would go Kyler, then Jordan Love, then Russell Wilson, then Baker. Would you drop one up T-Law, Murray, or Love for Pirine? With JT going down, running backs next week are looking like Najee, Kareem Hunt. Pirine's like okay. Probably better than Kareem Hunt, but still not a super high ceiling. You know what I mean? If I had to drop one of those guys, you don't need all three. I probably keep T-Law and Murray, but it's close. I feel like T-Law, Jordan Love kind of floor plays, and Kyler brings that upside. But I'd rather have T-Law than Jordan Love. I don't know, but I feel like that consistency is fine if you just want to go J-Lo and T-Law. But I mean, Jordan Love, it's Kansas City, the Giants, Tampa Bay, Carolina, Minnesota, a pretty good schedule the rest of the season. I would not drop Trevor Lawrence. Kyler gets Pittsburgh, tough matchup on the road, a bye week, which could hurt you. San Francisco, tough. Chicago might be tough. It's on the road. That defense looked really good against the Vikings Monday night, but I don't know. Then Philly. So I don't know. Maybe I move on from Kyler. Would you start Nico Collins or Calvin Ridley? Calvin Ridley. But I like both a lot. Start 2, Moss, Mostart, Wilson, DK. Mostart and Moss. Mostart and Moss. Yahoo app is telling me to bench Dell for Cup. Don't do it. Yeah, don't pay attention to, I don't know, stuff like that. At least go to like a rankings website or something. But I don't know, apps, just don't trust the projections. Even like, man, I knew it was going to happen too. So many like matchups, like after Thursday and after Friday this past week, like a lot of underperformers or overperformers in either direction. It just didn't matter. After Sunday and Monday we're done with. It's just projections are just like a scam. I could also drop Hunt for Pirine. Yeah, you could do that. If you just want to roll with that, I think that's fine, actually. That's fine. But yeah, Hunt, Pirine, like, you're not getting a high ceiling. Bad time to lose JT. Could I trust DK this week? I wouldn't do so, man. I wouldn't do it. Cowboys, 4th best team in the league against wide receivers. 9 targets, 3 receptions, 32 receiving yards last week for Metcalf. I don't see any reason why this Hawks offense looks any better this week. I don't want to trust them. No. Start one at running back, one at wide receiver, one at flex. We got Hall, Moss, Rice, Kirk, or McLaurin. Give me Christian Kirk, no matter what. He's my wide receiver. Give me Zach Moss at running back. And the flex, I'll go Rashee Rice, but you could go Breece Hall or McLaurin. But definitely Moss, definitely Kirk. I go Hall or Rashee Rice. I like the Chargers D this week against the Patriots. I have them starting, but Jags and Colts are also available. Yeah, we talked about this earlier in the stream. I'm okay with the Chargers, I guess. I don't really trust them, but to be fair, I said the same thing against the Jets. And they had 30 fantasy points. I was thinking it was the game against the Bears that they went off, but it wasn't. It was the Jets. My bad. And 9 points against the Bears. The following week, they had 30 points against the Jets. That's what I was thinking of. I still don't trust them, but you can start them if you want. If you feel good about it, do it. That's how it kind of works with these defense streams. Like, at the end of the day, trust your gut. There's a lot of decent options this week, though. But yeah, if you want to go with them, it's probably fine. The Jags, I still think, are a pretty good start for sure. But they're more of like a floor play. And I really like the Colts, man. I just do. The big thing with the Colts is like it's so solid the rest of the season. Like they're at Tennessee. Maybe they struggle against the run this week. They haven't been great against the run this year. But man, and against Cincy, Pittsburgh, who's looked more inspired in the past week, but still a good matchup. And the Falcons and the Raiders. It's just a good end of season schedule. But I still think the Jags, Colts, kind of good floor plays. I think the upside is with the Chargers, though. J-Dubs, good luck, John. Facing you twice this week should be fun, man. Let's see. We face each other in the Dynasty League, which is a big matchup for the league overall. I'm excited for that. And then we face each other. Is it in the auction league or no? Catch Fam League number 1? It is. That's a big matchup as well. Man, I started this season last. I was last in that league. Then I had that crazy win streak. Then the last 2 or 3 weeks have been bad. So that's a big matchup too. Because I'm 5 and you're 6, and then teams 7 and 8 are 6 and 6. Teams 9 and 10 and 11 are 5 and 7. Teams 3 and 4 are 7 and 5. Teams 1 and 2 are 8 and 4. I think the only team out of the playoffs is Tox, who's 3 and 9. I think there's a route for everyone else to make the playoffs. So that's actually pretty impressive. But yeah, I had a really good week last week. I had 170 points. Stroud, Pacheco, Amon-Ra, DJ Moore, AJ Brown, Broncos defense, but it just didn't matter. Spencer had Stafford, Chuba Hubbard, Rashad White, Hollywood, Jalen Waddle, Travis Kelce, Michael Pittman, McCaffrey, Dolphins kicker, and the Cowboys defense. I mean, he just destroyed me. Even if I had benched DeAndre Swift for Ramondre Stevenson, I still would have lost. That would have given me 10 extra points. We both had really good lineups. He had 194 points. Week before that, I barely lost to Jerry. Week before that, Steven had a really good week against me. So I had 3 tough losses in a row. Big, big implications there. What are the chances that JT only misses the 2-week minimum? I say 0, but what are your thoughts? It depends. I think he'll get out there if he can play. But the Colts are technically in the playoff hunt. So if that's really heating up, that could be a big factor. Would you start Warren or any of my other running backs you're starting? Rashad, Gibbs, Bijan. I really like Jalen Warren this week. I would not start him over Rashad White or Bijan Robinson, though. I think Bijan will have another solid week. I don't know if he's going to have 2 tutties, but he'll have another good week. This Jets defense, the run defense for the Jets hasn't really been good. Rashad White, just a start. Too good of a matchup. Gibbs, I could see a path for benching him because Monty's eating into those carries, and the Saints are top 12 against the running back position. So if it's anyone, it's Gibbs. But once again, Gibbs can do his thing. So I'd start Rashad and Bijan for sure. If you feel better about Warren over Gibbs, that's fine. But similar to Gibbs' situation, Warren is still going to have touches come through from Najee. So Carr or Wilson, I'll go Wilson. Feel better about that situation. Just because Carr doesn't throw touchdowns. I see the Browns defense getting dropped a lot. Would you roll with them rest of the season over Ravens? You can. The Ravens have a lot of tough matchups, so you can. Tommy, me and you this week in redraft. Don't forget about Kenneth. That league is close. Barely lost last week. Played Perry Schultz. Screwed me. Yeah. I think what was happening with my lineup in that league, there's a reason I was leaving Kenneth. I don't know why. Okay, I'm going to change that right now. Okay, I'm going to put in A.J. Dillon for now. I just couldn't decide who to drop. I have DJ Moore, Jordan Love, Kenneth Walker, A.J. Dillon, Zay Flowers, and I have the Colts defense, and I have Pittsburgh's defense. But right now, yeah, I'm kind of in a bad situation already because usually I start DJ Moore and Zay Flowers, and I have to start or bench them because they're on bye week. So I'm starting Greg Dortch and Romeo Dobbs, which I also don't feel good about. So kind of in a tough position against you this week. But yeah, we're both 6-6. That's big for that league. I'm team 7. You're team 6. Prey is 6-6. He's team 5. You got a 10-2 team, an 8-4 team, an 8-4 team, a 7-5 team. The team below me is 6-6, and then team 9 is 5-7. So yeah, it's a pretty big matchup between us this week, man. And then I play Shane, who's 8-4 the following week. So I really need to beat you, Tommy. I'm not gonna lie. But we'll see what happens, man. All right, pick 3 for flex spots. A-Chain is healthy. McLaurin, Downs, Waddle, London, A-Chain. I would start Waddle for sure. I would start Downs, and I would start A-Chain. Give me the upside. If you like McLaurin over Downs, that's okay. Redraft, would you rather have Kirk or Cup? I'd rather have Christian Kirk. But if anyone here knows me, maybe I'm biased, but I'd rather have Kirk. George, what up, dude? Jags or Rams defense? Jags for a 4. Rams for more risk, but far more upside. I mean, on paper, great matchup for the Rams defense, but they have not been a good fantasy defense this year. Browns or Chiefs defense this week? Chiefs. I'll go Chiefs. Got Zach Moss off waivers, also in that redraft league. Yeah, I got nobody in waivers this week, including I got Zach Moss in 0 leagues that he was available. I was really excited for that to potentially happen, but that's okay. But yeah, man, good for you because he's probably going to have a pretty decent week. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're over an hour, and we are at the bottom of the chat. So if you guys need anything, you can throw it on our Discord. Link is down below. Completely free to join. Just tag me on there. I'll get back to you guys. And I should be on tomorrow. I'll be on Friday with Pete from After the Review, and then I'll be on Saturday as well. So don't worry. We got plenty of time to get your guys' Week 13 lineups good to go. But as always, appreciate your guys' fantasy questions tonight. I appreciate you guys hanging out and talking fantasy tonight. And hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving, Black Friday week. I do apologize for this past week. I had a lot of stuff going on with family. I had a lot of family in town, a lot of people in and out of the house, a toddler, being a toddler, and had a good holiday week, but obviously was away from the channel. Then yesterday I worked all day long. So really do apologize for that, guys. But as always, you guys can always using that word a lot. Hit me up on Discord, and I'll get back to you guys. Just make sure you tag me so I get the notification. And yeah, I'll be back on tomorrow. And thank you guys for hanging out tonight. And of course, thank you guys for throwing some fancy questions my way. Gibbs or Mostart? Give me Mostart. Appreciate you, Algorithm. Mixon or Scary Terry? I'll go Scary Terry. Don't believe in the Bengals right now. All right, man. Love you guys, man. Love this community. Love the Catch fam. I'll talk to you guys soon. With that, I will say thank you guys so much for watching and or listening. And remember, yes, out here on the Catch. And